Well, listen, let's talk about something that obviously got a lot of uh issues, a lot of comments, a lot of people. We discussed it. Um, Skip and Shannon, their
Right.
their whole exchange, and
Right.
so my question is, um, people have commented based off of Skip and Shannon's,
Mhm.
kind of
Right.
little beef or altercation at the discussing Damar Hamlin and what Skip tweeted, whether it was taken out of context, whether it was insensitive. But since then, there has been people saying on Twitter, telling Shannon, who's actually responding to these Twitter
Mhm.
posts, hey, if Skip disrespects you one more time, we're gonna storm Fox Studios. They stormed the Capitol.
Mhm.
Matt Barnes was talking about the fact that Skip is very disrespectful and that he's had to personally tell several people not to
Mhm.
beat up Skip Bayless and
Mhm.
all of this. So my question
Mhm.
is ESPN and FS1 and all of these other like news or sports news shows, are they uh kind of perpetuating violence as it pertains to the black community? Are they exploiting sports media? We know Amazon, who was also involved in the Kyrie post, right? Because that was the platform that Kyrie posted about the alleged anti-Semitic movie, right? But yet you
Mhm.
have Two Chains after every Thursday night game as your spokesperson that is kind of transitioning because there's a music or a performer, whether it's a rapper or R&B singer, performs after every Thursday night game. So you can't have it both ways, right? So
Right.
it seems like they are, we know that Skip Bayless is always talking about how close him and Lil Wayne are, and
Right.
that's his boy, and he's
Yeah.
always referencing, oh, Lil Wayne text me and this, because we know Lil Wayne is a huge Packers fan, and so they go back and forth with that. And
Mhm.
so my question to you and to the audience is, at what point do we, because we both agree that Shannon should really do his own thing. He should really, kind of sever ties with Skip. Hey,
Mhm.
no hard feelings, appreciate it. But I'm gonna go on and do my own show and do my
Mhm.
own thing.
Right.
Um, because I think it gets to a point where, I think about Dave Chappelle, a lot when Dave Chappelle was talking about, uh, when he was doing the Chappelle show,
Mhm.
and he would have different skits and the different writers, and he was writing, and he would obviously show it to the team before they put the show out, and
Mhm.
it gets to a point where they were laughing, but it wasn't the type of laugh because it was funny, where it got to a point where Dave Chappelle had to come to the crossroads. Am I putting out something that is funny, or am I at a disservice, or I'm creating a disservice to the culture? And are they laughing with me or laughing at me? And
Right.
so I'm thinking that ESPN and Fox Sports 1, by allowing some of this stuff or giving people platforms to kind of perpetuate what they think, because they for a large degree, they want us, sports figures to, they've already said, shut up and dribble.
Right.
And we appreciate you for your entertainment value, but we don't want to hear what platform. We don't really care about you empowering your people. We don't really care about what you can, provide as it pertains to any type of direction. We want you just to, pretty much do what we want you to do, right?
Right.
We want to, from the kind of the, now I'll say this: our sports figures, our musicians, our rappers are not role models, right? Let's be clear about that, right?
Mhm.
They shouldn't be.
Most of them are. Yeah.
You shouldn't be modeling your life after Two Chains or Lil Wayne or any of those individuals, Drake, whoever, any sports figure. But
Right.
they also understand how media works, right? They understand that you can hear something, and as have you ever been in an elevator, or you kind of heard something and it was background music, and then you find yourself humming it. You don't know where it came from, but that's how media and music and everything works. So they understand the power of music, the power of, you can hear a song and think, oh man, I remember exactly what I was doing when this song came out. So they understand that, they understand symbolism, right? They understand how visually how people are viewed, right? So if they think, if they create the narrative that we're just, athletes, or we're violent, that's all we bring to the table, right? And I think that instead of ESPN and Fox Sports 1 creating a distinction, right, and having more positive influences, they'll give a platform to somebody that says, hey, if I see Skip, in Bel Air, I'm going to slap him, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. And I think that they kind of are actually, as much as, they talk against some of it, they use those same people, that are, once again, they are marrying. We know that music is an influencer. We know people are influenced and emotionally drawn to sports. So what better than to marry those together, have, create a bridge between rappers and, athletes. So it muddies the water, and everything is, and to a large degree, it can all be, have a negative output on, how we view each other. What do you say?
Oh, I agree with you totally. I mean, this exploitation has taken place for, centuries, as we know. But, right, if you look at just recently, going back to Colin Kaepernick, right, and how at some point the NFL was able to turn that whole thing around and said, you know what, maybe we shouldn't go against the grain on this. We can actually make money off this, right? Let's go ahead and let's support Black Lives Matter. Let's put some things on the helmets and in the end zones and different things like that. And, again, because that's going to, what they were able to do was to say, hey, we're going to convince the structure, if you will, and the systems that are in control of these levels of output to say, listen, this is not a bad thing, okay? We can still be able to exploit this and make money off of it. Again, how do we exploit? All I have to do is make you think you're winning when you're not. Give you something, or give you the illusion that you're benefiting from what we're doing as well, right? So rappers get these enormous contracts, and they get all this money up front that they don't really own, they don't really have. It's just basically a loan. And then at some point in the duration of that contract, they're bankrupt. The album doesn't sell, and now they're in debt to a company. They don't own the material, they don't own masters, they don't own the publishing. So they're left all this creativity, all this stuff that they were able to get and produce out of the inside of who they are, they don't even own, right? Somebody else has made money off that. Same thing we see here in sports. When you look at Fox Sports 1, you look at ESPN, all of these different platforms, and I don't really care what it is. I mean, it could be YouTube, it could be IG, it could be Facebook, it could be all of these different mediums that we use. Again, when the culture, and because Black culture, as we know, which is responsible for trillions of dollars as relates to its contribution to the economy, Black people spend money, and Black people consume a lot of merchandise, and we are people that are so immersed in trying to gain a lot in terms of when it comes to materialism, because for so many years, for centuries, we believe by having something, right, gives us this sense of respect and identity. And so they know that, and the powers that be understand that. So when you look at the Skips, and you're bringing in the Lil Waynes, and you had the Snoop Dogs up there, and you had other rappers and different people, and you know how to blend these things, to your point, Donald. Again, what it does is it gives credibility to these things. When you look at Skip Bayless, Skip has no credibility, but yet he's the one making the most money. He's getting the most attention. He's the one that's getting, and you got to understand, Skip is the kind of individual that understands, like, I can take the smoke because, again, and I said this in our last episode, he's not concerned about relationships. He's a nomad. He's an exclusionary guy who doesn't mind being the antagonist. It doesn't bother him because why? As long as he's on the center of attention. This is why he cut Shannon off when Shannon was trying to explain to America why he wasn't on the show and his disagreement with the tweet and believing that the show should not have been about your tweet. It should have been more about Damar Hamlin. Skip wasn't trying to hear that because you're taking attention away from Skip. So we don't want to hear that. So Skip jumps in. And I think Shannon really should have fought back, in my opinion. I think sometimes Shannon kind of acquiesces a little bit too much to him. I think he feels like there's this indebtedness he has to him for giving him this platform. And he kind of feels like he needs to ingratiate Skip. And that's the only thing I have a problem with Shannon in that sense. I think Shannon needs to push back more. And Shannon does have enough cachet to have his own platform and do the things that he needs to do. And I'll just say this too, and I don't want to kind of get off in a rambling mode, but I like what he did when he diffused this whole thing on Twitter when people saying, look, we come up there and we're going to raid the parking lot. And you notice what he said. He said, look, we don't need to be insurrectionists. We don't need to go into the Capitol mindset because really what he was saying, don't do what they did, okay? Just let's be mature. Let's take the high road. I'm good. You understand what I'm saying? But I think what's bothering people is that we see Shannon, I think, he takes this real submissive position. You know, he can get angry. He can be upset with Skip. He can clearly see and know that he's being disrespected, but he still just takes it. You know, even though he kind of jabs back with him or jar with him, but it's still not the same. And I think he needs to be able to do something about that. But I'll end it with this though, D. Black culture is exploited in music, movies. We see how a lot of our family structure has been inverted. And I think there's a major problem with this. And I think as Black people, we have to be able to start understanding where the dangers of this infiltration is coming in and how we are being exploited. And at the end of the day, unless we start to own, unless we start to produce, like you can have a Tyler Perry and he's got the great studio here in Atlanta, but at the end of the day, you still have, you know, a lot of the system that's distributing the movies, right? They're still behind the whole thing. He still needs Hollywood to do what he does. And so he can produce it all, but he still needs to have it distributed. Same thing with music. You can own your own label. These rappers got their labels, but they're still under Universal. They're still under Capitol. They're still under the major labels that do what? The distribution for them. So until we understand how to own trucks and ships and merchandise and warehouses and understand the process of being able to not only manufacture what we do, but to distribute it, to have platforms as such as major, television stations and different things of that nature, we will still never be able to get and control the content that we have. And so it's unfortunate, but yes, sports definitely exploits the Black culture, I think, to a detriment.
And you brought up a good point also. We know sports, we know music, but also movies.
Yeah.
There aren't really movies that come out that really show a positive outlook on Black men, really. And if you want to talk about a whole group that has been typecast, right? So either you are a drug dealer, you are a murderer, you are like or a slave, right?
Right.
Because there's only certain things that you can actually Will Smith, right? He has this new movie that is streaming. I don't know how well it's doing on Apple TV. Emancipation. But how many 12 Years a Slave movies are we going to put out?
Exactly.
Because let's talk about the ones that were not slaves. Let's talk about, anyone that was empowered. Let's talk about anybody who has Hollywood has zero interest in putting out movies to discuss what we have brought to the table, right? They want to focus on us eating crumbs off the table, right? Exactly. That's their main focus, because if you keep a person in a certain mindset, right? And if you think that if a person is made to feel inferior, less than, then, as a man thinketh, so is he, right? Correct. That's what the Bible says, right? So that is a tool. That is a tool that is used against us, right? But they'll
Correct.
put out movies where, they'll put out movies where the roles of empowerment are inverted, right?
Correct.
So
Exactly.
they will put out strong roles where women are lead, men
Right.
are either, as the old term, suck egg dogs, right? Where they got their tail between their legs somewhere,
Yeah, exactly.
and they're not even in a leadership role. And we know how a successful structure of a family,
Correct.
I mean, if we want to get biblical, we talk about what how the structure should be, right?
Correct.
How God views it. So
Correct.
to have and put major money behind movies that show the opposite is
Right.
by design.
Exactly.
And so it works hand in hand. And what they want to do, what media wants to do, what the people behind the scenes want to do, is they know that what you see is not always what you get.
Correct.
But what they want to show you is different depictions that are always less than.
Yep.
They don't want you to feel empowered. They don't want you to highlight the impact of what you bring to the table. They
Correct.
want you to feel like, hey, what is inspiring for actors? Now, there are certain actors that have broken through that glass ceiling, that can pick, choose, and refuse roles, right?
Right.
But up and coming actors, unless you're doing indie films and all of that stuff,
right?
And let's not even talk about other agendas that they're pushing. But
Correct.
there are certain agendas that you have to be boxed into, right?
Yes, you do.
And those agendas, they will push that more and more. And if you are not willing to take one of those roles, right? And it's about 3 or 4 roles: a drug dealer,
right.
a slave, you have to be willing to do things that are not. We know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
You have
and to see. And here's the point: the fact that we can't even speak about that and say it with the level of explicitity that we would need to say it to just even make our point clear, without coming off, being either extremely biased or derogatory. And it's not about that. It's just that, again, we even have to be careful how things are set. And that's lets you know, again, the power that these agendas have, and that they silence the things that other people need to say as it relates to their culture being minimized and denigrated. So again, that in itself, the fact that we have to talk in code,
and we have to dance around that, right? The fact we have to dance around that, and the United States always talks about freedom of speech, right? But that freedom of speech really is that is a farce, right? Let's be honest about that.
Yeah.
We really there are certain elements and certain demographics that we have to keep our mouths shut about. Absolutely. Because is it really freedom of speech if I have to kind of tap dance around or tiptoe around certain subject matter? If it is a free society, right, we should be able, and especially if we're not coming from a place of being malicious, a place of being hurtful, but we just want to call it like we see it.
Right.
That shouldn't be a problem. But it is like, hey, you can't talk about just any and everything, because what you say can and will be used against you. And it will be taken out of context, but that's just the world we live in. And so we saw all that to say that our culture as a whole is being exploited. And it's time for us to wake up and understand that, hey, are we part of the problem? Are we part of the solution? What are we perpetuating? What are we allowing to be part of just the normalcy of what we accept, right? And I've had discussions with family members about this, where you want to support, Black movies or movies that come out that have a Black storyline. But at what point do we push back and say, okay, we're more than this, right? There's more to us than being a crack kingpin. There's more than us than that, right?
There's more to us than that.
You know,
Exactly.
there's more than us being, you know, the biggest pimp in Detroit. There's more to us than that, right?
Say that.
But why does Hollywood greenlight that? But other movies about, you know, us revolting, us for standing up, us pushing to, you know, get our fair share, it has to be, you know, pretty much self-financed. Right. You got to ask everybody, you know, you got to have you got to cash in bottles, you got to sell chicken dinners to get the money up to actually get that produced.
That's right.
So that is that's by design, because these actors that decide to go that route, right? They're great actors and actresses, right? Yeah. So it's not about talent. It's not like it's a movie full of, you know, Z-list actors and actresses. Right. But now, you know, I think several actors and actresses have talked about their ability to get roles. And then if we go into, you know, kind of the whole complexion, color construct, that's a whole nother story, right? Because, you know, sometimes roles are limited for certain complexions. It's just a lot of stuff that, from a standpoint of exploitation, you know, we know, both of us being black men, we both know that we come in all shapes, colors, you know, education levels, all of that. So we're super diverse, but yet we fall into certain categories in our movies. It's not as diverse as we are. You get what I'm saying? And that's totally by design.
Good point. Definitely by design, D. And it's and again, it's all part of the agenda to create that divisiveness, right, within the culture, you know, to where, you know, again, certain sects of, when I say it's not sex, but se sections, right, of us are pit against each other. And, you know, whether it be, again, like you talked about, you know, our pigmentation, whether it, you know, relates to economic status, social status, where our backgrounds, our journeys come from, you know, educational, you know, leverages, it all varies within our community. And so they were able to pick apart and parcel what they believe can work, and that's what they will portray. And so no matter what way you look at it, it's going to be exploited in a way that is going to have a negative connotation. So when you look at somebody like a 50 Cent, who has a show for life that really talks about the overcoming, you know, of a black man who was falsely incarcerated and becomes a lawyer while he's incarcerated, defending other inmates, and then ultimately, again, getting discovering enough evidence in his own case to be able to get himself obviously exonerated at some point.
It was a great show. It was a great show.
And it's gone, right? But you know, you got, but yet you got 44 iterations of power, right? Again, that can get the level of success that it has, because again, you know, it's what the consumer, us as a people, we tend to gravitate to. We get to pull to that, but in conjunction with that, the brass that runs and makes the decisions on these shows and media will say, well, you know what, we you know, we'll give it a little something, we'll show some positivity, you know, maybe we'll do a little something, a little documentary here or something there, whatever the case, but we can't run on that forever, all right? Because that's not going to make us money. We got to be able to exploit more and look at how we can expose, again, the structures of the black community and find ways to make this thing look as pessimistic as possible, because that's what sells. And guess what? You don't see that in other communities. Other communities are not going to do that. You know, you can look at any community, any ethnicity, and they're not leaving their families. They're not denigrating their women. They're not abandoning their children. Again, their family dynamic is very, very strong for them. That's
and certainly we're not suggesting that we're, you know, black communities are the only ones that do these things, but they're the only ones that are highlighted.
Exactly.
Every other community does this, right? So domestic violence and abuse and this,
of course, because those are just human
every community does that. But ours is put on Front Street. And somebody posted something that I thought was very interesting and spot on. you know, everybody talks about Fox, right? Being such a, you know, kind of a more conservative, right-wing, racist, if you will, a show or network. But that's that same Fox has Empire on it. So that had Empire. That lets you know that they don't care. They don't care.
Doesn't matter.
They're about the dollar. So they will show what their overall views of society is one thing, but they still want to monetize and still make money off of a negative depiction of a black family structure.
There you go.
So they don't care at the end of the day. They really don't care. They're in it for the money. At the end of the day, they're in it for the money. So if you think that you're gonna try to back them into in a corner as to, you know, where they stand on one or the other, they know that this type of, you know, Cookie and the rest of them, and, you know, everybody and the music and the drugs and all of that stuff is still going to have a captivated audience. Okay, then we'll put that on. And then we'll still tell you that, you know, and when we go, it's time for the news broadcast. We'll tell you your lowdown, and we'll highlight some of the same depictions of the black community, but in the news, we'll make that our focal point, and we'll say, hey, this is where, you know, what's the phrase? How something imitates life or art imitates life. They will make the comparison that, hey, this is not just a show, but this is actually, so it all works hand in hand. Absolutely. And it's to our detriment at the end of the day. So I think we just need to, as a community, be more mindful of, you know, how much we are accepting of being exploited. And it should be not at all. We shouldn't be okay with it at all.
No, we should not be. We do need people, I think, hence what we're talking about, the Shannons, if we will. And I'm not putting all that burden on guys that are in his position, but what I'm saying is that when we do see people take that position, you look at what happened with Kanye, and you talked about the freedom of speech, right? Well, there's no freedom of consequences, right? Any private company can say, okay, fine, you have a right to say that. You're not going to go to jail for what you said, but we are going to pull the riches from you because, again, in our eyes, you're just another black person that we can find another Kanye. We're going to find another Kyrie. Nike's like, hey, what doesn't matter? We'll find another Kyrie because, again, there's so many of us in the pipeline. And so the sad part is that until we look at these things and say, you know what? If these guys are setting an example, whether it be direct or indirect, deliberate, or maybe, you know, unintentional, we still should say, hey, you know what? This is sending a message here. Let's try to see if we can continue to take that momentum and push that, right? You know, I would love to see Kanye what level of influence that he has. And I know Kanye is a very complicated. I'm talking about let's just say we look at the Kanye that is for black people on Monday, okay? Because we know Tuesday, Wednesday, we don't know what we're going to get out of Kanye, right? But that
platform,
Kanye,
that size of a platform,
right? That size of a platform. Thank you, Don. That's a better way to put it. His size of a platform where he can be able to go ahead, and again goes back to his own manufacturing, distribution of his merchandise and sneakers and clothing and all the other things that he has the ability to do that, and I think he would do very well with that. I think because people know that he owns everything from soup to nuts, then yes, that would be very powerful in that sense, and that would be something that would start to propel, I think, this real next level of ownership, right? Like I think we've made strides as a community to get into different places in which we've gotten into, but we know that the doors are still closed in some other areas that we still can't get through because, again, that exploitation and that particular brass that's running and controlling media, which is a very important component of our society, are just not going to let that go through. So instead of trying to bust down that door, just create another door, create another house, create your
own, right?
And create your own. And then
that way you control it from top to bottom. Yeah.
Imagine we took them trillions of dollars and did that, right? The money we put in supporting other businesses, we did that and put that in our own. Well, shout out to Killer Mike that has his own bank too, which I think is good. I'm actually going to get ready to open up an account.
There's been studies about how quick or how long our dollars stay in our community. They've
I saw that.
And so, you know, our money doesn't. Other communities.
Our show is longer. Our show has been on longer. It's longer than a dollar state.
Exactly. That is it. And one quick thing.
Sure.
Stephen A. Smith speaking of platforms and using or misusing a platform, Stephen A. Smith has, when different situations come out, he's very, very vocal. And he's unapologetic. That's what he says, right?
Right.
And so a video, TMZ, who finds everything. If you do anything, TMZ is around, right?
They're around, right?
TMZ finds a video of Dana White slapping his wife, right? At a bar. It appeared to be at a bar. She slapped him first. He slapped her. Right. And it was like they threw blows, right?
Right.
So Stephen A is now, Dana White, I think he owns UFC or, so he's a big figure. And
absolutely.
it's time for Stephen A to actually address it, right?
Right.
And the view has always been with Ray Rice and everyone else that, because the Ray Rice situation, the NFL doesn't care. What forced them to care is that there was a video, right?
Exactly.
So I say all that to say there's a video of Dana White slapping and getting into a physical altercation with his wife. My question is, and the handling of how Stephen A addressed it was, it wasn't like he kind of skirted around. Yeah, you don't put your hand on a woman. And I'm just, I'm gonna say that. But I love Dana White. And he's more apologizing. If you're wrong, you're wrong, right? And so all we ask is that you be fair.
Yeah, exactly.
When other people have indiscretions or issues or things that they have done wrong, just have that same compassion. Say that because he's saying, I love Dana White. I loved it. Dana White don't care about you. I'm going to be honest. He does not care about you.
No, he does not.
That whole I love Dana White, listen, save it. But with other people, once again, in our community, you are ready to all but, castrate them.
Right.
Just look at his handling initially of Kyrie Irving. He was not, hey, listen,
he went in on him.
We're going to stand by him, because I love Kyrie. No, it was none of that. There was no benefit of the doubt. It was no, hey, listen, maybe he wasn't aware of what he was doing. Or we haven't seen, Kyrie is he's quirky, but we haven't seen anything to the level of anything that would seem racist or anti-Semitic from him before. So we're going to give him the benefit of the doubt until we have more information. Here you have, it was just a link to a movie on Amazon, which he never called out Amazon, but yet you want to give Dana White a pass. And so all we ask is just be fair. With these platforms, these huge platforms that people watch, just be fair and call it like you see it across the board. If there is zero tolerance or there is no place ever for a man to put his hands on a woman, then that has to be across the board. It does not matter about your relationship with the person. Wrong is wrong. But he kind of mumbled the wrong part, but more, I love them. And, and then Molly chimes in. Yeah, we seen her slap him too. But what does that have to do with anything?
It doesn't mean anything.
Domestic violence is domestic violence. They're both wrong. They're both wrong. Yeah, but certainly, Dana White putting his hands on his wife, that should have, but once again, that will get very little. And people still aren't talking about Brett Favre. There are certain things that will never, that nobody, Brett Favre is going on about his life, probably trying to figure out how to steal some more money from another state, and nobody is talking about that. And I will say one more thing.
Yeah. People
do say, while the country can focus on such, minute things such as, Skip and Shannon, their spat and other stuff, Dana White and all that stuff. The government is doing stuff right under our nose, and that's how they keep us distracted. They keep us distracted with stuff like this for us to discuss. And yeah, we have a sports show, so yeah, we are discussing it. Right. But just be mindful and be aware of your surroundings and what's going on, in our government, what's going on in the world. Have a worldview. Don't let ESPN, Fox Sports 1, Brooklyn Beards and Ball. Don't let this be your sole a source of information and news. You should know what's going on. You should know what Congress is doing. You should know who the Speaker of the House is going to be. You should know all of that. And if you don't, shame on you. That's what you should. You should be aware of your surroundings.
I totally agree. I say, D, I think you surmised it very, very well, and I totally agree with you there. This a lot of it is designed to be a distraction, and because again, we get so consumed with entertainment, and this is part of entertainment, right? Even our sports show, that's what it's designed to do, to entertain, to put our mental state in another compartment for a moment or two, whatever it is, an hour or two, whatever it is, where you pull your entertainment source from, to kind of be that escapism to what the real world is doing. And we have to be careful with that. We can't be so aloof in what we're consuming that we completely are out of touch with what the real issues are and what's taking place. And I'll just say this real quick about Stephen A. Stephen A. is compromised. There's no question about it. He's you know, it's no matter no matter which way you look at that, no matter what vantage point you try to see, you know, his position and his platform from, he's severely compromised. It just doesn't matter with him, because he's another one like Kanye to that degree, where he's trying to find that soft spot to land, and there is no soft spot. There is no medium. You can't. When it comes to injustices, when it comes to things that are where there's inequality, there is no middle. It's either right or wrong.
I'd rather you be hot or cold, right?
Hot or cold, right? That's what the Bible tells us too, because you will be spewed out, because you cannot sit in the middle of when it comes to what is righteous and unrighteous. It doesn't matter. You have to take a stand. You have to be decided in where you sit. And when you look at him, even with Jerry Jones, there's a point in time where he called out Jerry Jones very vehemently during the Colin Kaepernick thing, right? Because Jerry was very silent for a long time when that was going on. I remember him coming out, Jerry Jones, you need to say something, right? Now, that was before his relationship started to evolve, though, with Jerry. Now you go on the Cowboys website, who do you see on there? Stephen A. Smith. They did a whole video together, right? And the whole thing, and he's flying
cowboy hat on, and
hat, the whole nine. So
he's on the tape.
Compromised.
Yep.
He's compromised. So then all of a sudden, we saw the video as a young Jerry Jones, clearly, all right, antithetical and in full opposition of an integrated school, okay. You know, well, that was 400 years ago. It doesn't matter, right? You see? So he's compromised to the big degree. In America, we gotta. That's why we gotta make sure our eyes are open, man, and we are listening intently and not just going with what we see, because again, they work for the brass. Okay, Disney's got Stephen A. Fox got Skip and Shannon. They got all these people. So this is what I'm trying to say. No matter what platform you go on, you're going to still be subject to the rules, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, IG, TikTok. At the end of the day, they control your content. You still can't be free in what it is that you say unless you own it yourself, okay? Owning a page or owning a TV show, it doesn't mean nothing, okay? That's why 50 Cent and all these other black producers, Ava DuVernay, I'm sorry if I enunciated her name incorrectly, or DuVernay rather, excuse me, and all the other people that we see that are great, prolific, talented writers and movie creators and so forth, it's great, but at the end of the day, they still need a white studio to approve and to be determined to determine what that content is going to look like on the other end when it comes to that output. And that's the part that we just don't have control over. So it's just what it is. So yeah, black culture exploited in every major facet of entertainment. Why? Because it's entertainment that shapes and cultivates the mindset of a people within America. So if you want to be able to get control of people, you got to show them content, and you got to do it through the media. And that is the only way you'll be able to get people to conform to an agenda, whether it be right or wrong.